Oh man, I've got a treat for us today. So patch 1.7 of Three Kingdoms came out recently with a new DLC on March the 8th, so that was 9 days ago, and I scrolled it just out of curiosity, and immediately I started to notice some very interesting things. Just skip past all the romance crap. Cavalry and missile troops have been reduced in lethality across the board with the intention of putting them in line with the current killing power of infantry. So, they're reducing two sides of the triangle, cavalry, missile, infantry, in Three Kingdoms, because they think the killing power of infantry is really low. Oh man, this is massive. I started uploading critiques of Total War at the end of August, start of September. So I uploaded... This was the first real one I did. 17th of August. So that was only a few weeks after Troy launched. 13th of August. Oh, so I was really fast there. Like, I was playing it during early access, getting to grips with it, and I was volunteering feedback for free, just volunteering it, just giving feedback, because something was just off here, and it was really off. Like, my god, how did this happen? The gameplay just quickly devolves into running away. That's all the gameplay really was for me. Effective gameplay consisted of just charge cycling, and I showed that really well in this video here. This was the first one that I made that was a bit more... Yeah, this was the day after Troy launched. So, things were just not looking good. I was really just dejected. Like, there's Warhammer off to the side, and then here in the grounded, tactical, gameplay-oriented Total Wars, if there were to be such a thing, we've got this, and I was really didn't like it. And then I started to make another two videos that go into detail, because I was not getting any real acknowledgement from the developers in their partner Discord. There was a feedback section, and I was getting no meaningful real acknowledgement from any of the developers on anything I was saying, so it just seemed like a fucking dead end. I was just talking to myself, just a brick wall. And some bootlicker YouTubers would try and, white knight for CA for some reason. So that was just really pathetic. So I made these two videos here, and this one is focused on difficulty-based combat modifiers, which just cripple the gameplay, just really hurt it massively. It objectively makes the gameplay worse. You've got units whose properties that distinguish them become irrelevant. Entire units become irrelevant. It totally messes with the balance that they indicate that they care about here. So I was going on about the difficulty modifiers in this one, and then for this one I was complaining about single entities and how they also really hurt the gameplay in terms of the position of infantry. And then, was it really this one that I made? Yeah, so after I made these two videos, I was getting like serious, ridiculous harassment. Like, my god, there was just like subreddits and communities that were just downvoting my videos into oblivion. Let's look at this one. This one has 800 dislikes, and that's all from a tiny span. Like, I was at 95% upvotes for a long time on this, and then it just goes down to, I think it was actually just over half. So since the smear campaigns and the brigades ended, it started to recover, but this was up here for a long time, like 60-40 split. And then, let's look at this one. Yeah, this one, yeah. So this is still at a 2-to-1 ratio. It's still not properly recovered, but this was likewise, like, looking really good, and then I got brigaded and shit. So let's look at the dates. And then I started to make more efforted, formalised videos, and was it this one that I started with? August the 17th, and then September the 11th. Yeah, so here we go. So I made these two videos, and these were the two most prominent issues that I saw. Difficulty-based combat modifiers and single entities that just denature the battlefield. And those two together turned Troy into a really bizarre experience. And then, of course, I started to get harassed, brigaded, mobbed, piled onto. And then after that, I made this one, and it's sitting on 200,000 views. And this one united these two, and to an extent included this one. So this video is all about the role of infantry on the battlefield, the structure of the battlefield, battle structure, army cohesion. Your units can't work together while some of them can't work at all. Speaking about infantry, there's no point in trying to have an integrated tactical plan that utilises armies when single entity units turn the battlefield into a MOBA, and your actual units are so often not much more than spectators. And then, alright, let's look at the 3K's hideous meta. I used the word hideous there. Whew, I was not pulling my punches. The relegating effect of heroes and single entity units. They've not changed that in the patch notes. Well, maybe you would think of this stuff as being a bit of a nerf. I don't know. Maybe they've nerfed single entities heroes. The extreme disincentive from infantry and Troy/3K. Yep. So when I was playing 3K, hopefully, that was in 2019, not long after it launched. The game looked like it had a lot of good systems. I was pleasantly surprised by the performance. The game ran well from launch. I was getting good frame rates. We also had good systems in place like diplomacy. It seemed to be a really thorough, consistent system for once for diplomacy, and that's always encouraging. When you play a Total War game and it seems to fix one of the long-standing issues with the franchise, that is a good sign. And of course there was always "except we will attack, please do not attack," all of this retarded stuff. And then Three Kingdoms comes along, and all of these options in diplomacy have weight to them. If you offer a weapon, it'll have a weight of 4, and then you can trade a province that has a weight of 8, and then you can chuck in like 3,000 gold, and that'll balance it out. Everything was balanced, and the AI was taught to prioritize things. Like it was taught to consider its tactical and strategic situation to make rational decisions in its own interests. So that was really interesting to me. Like, wow, I can learn this system. I can try and squeeze things out of it. But then on the battle map, it quickly just became apparent to me that I am only ever going to be making cavalry and maybe a little bit of archers, and I'm just going to be clicking. I'm going to just be clicking and running away, charge cycling over and over and over again. And that is exactly what I did. If you look at my Salsal campaign, you'll see that I start out knowing that cavalry is effective. That's why I started playing that campaign, because I had figured out how to be effective in 3K, and I immediately started a campaign. But then I realised that there was no way to habilitate infantry. It was silly to try. And then eventually they patch axes so that they can break through shields. So it seems like they're trying to bring axes into relevance, and I was hopeful about trying that. But then I realised that the patching was just breaking my campaign, so I couldn't even continue the campaign with this improvement. So I was just really demoralised, and then I found out that Troy's coming along, and alright, let's give this a try, let's see what this is. I like Greek mythology, I like watching Troy from 2004, let's go for it. And then I find out that medium swords lose 3-1 in a melee, and Admiral Price noticed, to his credit, one of the few things I can actually credit him with, he noticed that heavy spears lose to themselves at a rate of 7-1 on the highest difficulty. And I also noticed that, and you can see this in my video, which one is it? Alright, let's find it. 4 losses in Achilles' opening battle in Total War Troy, and this is by just not even exploiting, like I'm using the intended game mechanics. What else are you supposed to do with heroes like with Achilles and Hector? What are you supposed to do with them if not have them running around on their own dominating the battlefield? That's what you're supposed to do, and I did it well enough, easily enough in early access, is it? Yep, during early access, I did it well enough, easily enough, that I can win the first battle with no losses if I was patient enough. And I could do this, I think, for enough battles in a campaign to just reduce the game to being absurd. So I was really not happy. There was no point in continuing to push Troy. It was trivially solved in early access for me. So I was really unhappy and I wanted to do something about it. This should not be happening. It shouldn't be like this. So, of course, what video do I make? Let's have a look. It's Total War Real-Time Strategy Game. Yep, so I'm talking about real-time tactics, real-time strategy, what that is meant to be like. And then I point out that Troy is starting to resemble like a really weird experience of like a MOBA where you're just using hero units. And remember, I skipped romance mode in Three Kingdoms. I know what it is, I played it, I stopped playing it as soon as possible once I knew what it was and started playing records, and I've never played Warhammer and never will. So I don't really have any patience for this kind of gameplay that just doesn't interest me whatsoever. And when I realised that was all Troy offered, oh man, yep, so I made this video. And then, of course, I made these two because I could see the trajectory was not good. Like, you've got Three Kingdoms that leans into this, and of course Warhammer started out like this. It was always going to be this. That's why I bailed out of Total War in 2014 when it was announced, because I knew what was coming. But then you've got Three Kingdoms leaning into it, and then you've got Troy just full on going for it, and it's like, oh my god, what the fuck? So I made these two videos, got brigaded, retaliated, made this video that just formalised my problem really thoroughly, and let's go back to it. Alright. So, the frustration of Scotland and Medieval 2. So that's a faction in Medieval 2 that is really crippled by its inadequate infantry. So that's an example of a game where infantry are generally pretty solid, but where one of the factions shows you what it looks like when their infantry are nerfed horribly. And then I compare Spears in Three Kingdoms versus Spears in Shogun 2, because that's another thing that I've identified. Being able to effectively see off cavalry, keep cavalry at bay with your cheapest unit in Shogun 2 keeps the gameplay alive and makes it meaningful. And then I show how infantry works in Medieval 2 and Third Age in general. And yeah, so this was at the core of what I saw to be wrong with modern Total War. The fact that infantry are just often useless and that there's no way to deploy them in a way that's satisfying. They're just fodder to get bombed by single entities and nuked by cavalry charges, and I just didn't like it at all. So I made this video, 200k views, and that was in September, and now we have, in the patch notes here, cavalry and missile troops have been reduced in lethality across the board with intention of putting them in line with the current killing power of infantry. So what this is supposed to do is to slow the game down and to bring infantry into relevance. So cavalry are no longer supposed to be able to just wrecking ball through anything, and missile troops likewise. Cavalry charges do less damage initially, but now run further into the unit than they did previously. So they won't kill as many, but they're more likely to get stuck. This sounds to me like Shogun 2, because in Shogun 2, cavalry will do damage on the charge, but they'll quickly pay for it the longer they stay in melee. Even katana cavalry take losses in melee at a rate that is not exactly comfortable. Armor piercing damage and accuracy of all bows has been reduced, so this is just a straightforward nerf. Reload speed reduced slightly for bows and crossbows. Why bows? Reduce it for crossbows and give crossbows more damage, or just reduce it for crossbows? Why do they not have distinct roles, bows and crossbows? They didn't when I was playing. Reduce chance for units to friendly fire with missiles. Missile units should now be less likely to run forwards when their line of sight is blocked. So this is a fix. This was really annoying. You can see me complaining about this over and over again in my Cao Cao campaign. I did this in the battle with Zhu Huang. I had redundant lines of infantry with archers behind, and the archers just kept running into the goddamn infantry lines to get into the melee. It was really annoying. Cataphracts have higher mass and should now be able to smash through enemy lines. Good, because cataphracts were not distinguished from any other short cavalry, so this is good. Reduce the lethality of caltrops by 90%. Yep, because they just gave straightforward kills. I don't know why they're just like mines that kill the things. It's really strange. Really, really strange. Alright, yeah, this is the part that's interesting. I found it. Morale and fatigue changes. Minor changes that will help solidify the rebalance of cavalry and missile troops below, with the aim of shifting the battle meta away from cavalry and missile shock damage and onto a more combined arms attritional combat system. So what this means is that they want to have a way to play the game that is more involved, so it's more long term. You're not just committing to these little taps like you see here, where I'm playing with Achilles and I'm just exploiting single entities and charge bonus on units. I would just use young spears and tap units and then run away and get out for free. You can see me doing it right at the end of this one here. Like, see this, 4 losses? This should not be possible, and it seems like they're trying to go further away from this with what they're describing here. Combined arms as well. That means that there's more involvement between units, so you're actually thinking about using units together and the situations that happen. That's good. This is something that I would do very little of in 3K and did none of in Troy. In Troy, all of my units were just running away on their own pretty much. Like, there wasn't really any manoeuvres, actual battlefield-wide manoeuvres that use multiple units to achieve things. It was all just isolated, hit and run, hit and run, hit and run, charge, run away. And Troy was just, oh man, the most extreme version of that I've ever seen. All units now have reduced morale when fatigued, with a maximum of 12 morale when exhausted. Oh, I did not realise that was not there in the first place. That is really bad. So that means that fatigue didn't affect morale until now. So being tired didn't demoralise units. There wasn't this tying together of morale and fatigue like that directly until now, really. It's really surprising. This is an improvement, I would think, because I really liked in Shogun 2 how you could chain route by getting an army tired and just getting that advantage over them. You could, hypothetically in Shogun 2, you could use marathon monks to exhaust enemy units and second wind your own units and then fight from being fresh against exhausted units. It was interesting to do stuff like that. Decrease the morale impact of a general's death after the initial shock has worn off. So they recover, they get their composure back after the initial morale shock. This means that you have to go for it, so you kill a general, cut the head off the snake, and then rout the whole army. Vastly increase the chances that one unit routing is likely to make another allied unit rout. That's really good, so that means they want to go for chain routes. Wow, they've seen my Shogun 2 Impossible Battles videos, they've seen my... they've seen how 3K is just really... Like, this makes ambitious maneuvers and timings possible. Like, this means they're going towards that kind of an approach to the battle where you can be patient and decisive and ruthless enough that you can rout entire armies. And of course, if you do that deliberately, it's really cool. If you do that and make videos of it, it looks really good. So this is good. My god, this is encouraging. This especially, I would say, is encouraging. So you can exhaust armies and then break units and defeat them in detail and have that chain route spread. So you're incentivized to spread the route from a point. So you're incentivized to concentrate your demoralizing, your force to a small area, and then have an initial break, precipitate, and then spread it, try and sustain that momentum across the enemy line. That's really good. A unit is, and this also encourages you to make lines with your infantry so you can give them a structure and keep them together and route them like this. So this is good. So what this means is that there's an attritional combined arms combat system where you fight using all of the components of your army, and this was something that I would so often just not be able to do in Three Kingdoms. Let's find it. Let's find it. Alright, so this is the only video I made of 3K in my Impossible Battles series. And what I am doing here is, let's see it, it's at the bottom right. Look at this, I've got infantry over here off on their own that are just running away. See them there, they're just running away because their properties are not useful enough to have them help. They're just a liability. They're not going to help in this fight. I'm completely up against it. Balance of power at the start of this fight was really bad, and it was really a tough fight. I've got almost nothing I can use here, and part of that is because I've got so much infantry, and the infantry that I do have, this is what I'm doing to get the win. I am just running away with my infantry, keeping them alive, because the only thing that infantry can really do in this fight to help is to stay alive, to shift the balance of power so that army losses will take them over the edge. So I leave the most annoying units alive, and then I have them break at the end when the balance of power breaks them for me. And that is what I'm doing with my infantry in this fight. How bad is that? They don't have a use in a fight, in an integrated, coordinated battle plan. I'm just running away with them. Just get away, don't get into the melee. All they can do is get into melee, and I'm just like, nah, run away, run away. That is really, 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 really bad. My god. That's just a failure to design a game that gives these units, all these different kinds of units, swords, spears, it's a failure to give them properties to differentiate them meaningfully enough on this difficulty setting at the very least that I can actually use them. That's an entire realm of possibility that is just closed off. I'm not even thinking about them and what they can do. All I'm doing here is using cavalry and archers in conjunction, and that's all I can really do. So there's an entire dimension to the whole possibility matrix that just does not exist for me in this battle, and it makes the battle worse. I want to be ambitious with my gameplay. I want to reach for the very edge of possibility and do the best things that are possible within the game and that I am able to actually pull off. And I'm making these units run away. And they run away for the whole battle. Like, at the end, I think I finally get them to stand their ground because the balance of power is so high. That is really, really shockingly bad. And that's why this is the only video in this series, because there's nothing else that I can really do. Three Kingdoms gameplay is only ever going to involve, on this build, this was in 2019, so this, up until, for nearly 2 years, this was all that I could really do with 3K. I could only use cavalry charges and support with archers and crossbows and trebuchets, so it's just charge cycling with cavalry and a little bit of support in arms from archers, and you can see a good example of that, I think. Let's find it. Alright, so here we go. Firing a full volley, so I'm putting out the damage, the unit is taking a lot of casualties, it's just lost 30 or 40 men, and then a hit from one side with cavalry, and it's flashing, and then the other side comes in, I pull out on the initial side, and then it routs. And that's it. So that's all I can really do. That's the peak of ambition in Three Kingdoms gameplay. Like, that's as good as it gets. And that's because infantry are worthless and that there's not any infantry charging, timing, pulling out possible whatsoever. And Troy's the same way in a lot of ways. Like, all you can really do with infantry and Troy is charge, run away, catch them when they're facing the wrong direction, charge, run away. So these changes here are really good. This means that they're moving away from that nearly 2 years later. Slight reduction to damage when fatigued, with a maximum of minus 30% base and armor piercing damage when exhausted. So not only are you incentivized to have a fatigue advantage over the enemy because of morale, but because of actual melee performance, actual combat performance. So I'm not sure about this. This means that the amount of damage that units do when they're fatigued is greater now. So slight reduction to damage when fatigued. What does this mean? Slight reduction to damage when fatigued? So, when you're fatigued... No way, man. No way was damage not reduced by fatigue until now. No way. What the heck? Wait a minute. Slight reduction to damage when fatigued? So there was no damage when fatigued. There was no reduction to damage when fatigued, but now there is, and it's slight. And it's a maximum of minus 30% base and AP damage when exhausted. What the hell? This is really confusing. I don't know if there's a good way to interpret this, because either this is saying that there wasn't a reduction to damage when fatigued before, which I'm sure there was. There always is in every Total War. Even Warhammer has that. So I really don't know how to interpret this. If it's in line with the changes that they're describing here, then it rewards attrition. So units that have good stamina should, according to this, hopefully be able to perform better deeper into the fight if it's attritional. So you get an advantage if you have better stamina and fatigue. So you want to, I think, it's further incentivizing a difference in available stamina condition. Increased fatigue regeneration when idle or ready, which should see units regain stamina when out of combat much quicker. So this means that you want to keep units locked in the melee. So I've always said that in Three Kingdoms you're punished for staying in the melee, but this seems to be indicating an intention to reward it. So if you can get units tired in the melee, have their damage go down, have their morale go down, then you can involve cavalry with hammer and anvils in a way that's more sensible. That's what this looks like. Decreased fatigue rate during combat, which should see units tire less quickly due to being in combat. But it says here that you tire slower. This is really strange. Decreased fatigue rate during combat. Tire less quickly due to being in combat. It's like there's mixed signals going on here. Like, I really don't... yeah, so I'm not sure about some of these descriptions, and I would need to see numbers and stuff, but to sum up, these changes are coming nearly 2 years after launch, and about 6 months after I started to really articulate my concerns, and 200,000 views later, 2,000 comments later, and of course I've seen these arguments that I've made being reiterated all over the internet. So even if they don't pay attention to what I'm saying when I say it directly, straight to them, freely and volunteer it, it seems to me, ostensibly, that if I make videos clearly laying out the problems with their games as I see them, filtering them through my 20 years of playing Total War with determination, playing Total War with real purpose for YouTube, and while curating your comments and your concerns while I do it over the past 6 months, it seems like someone at CA cares. So it's a good thing that they did this. Like, this is encouraging. This means that someone at CA cares. Even if they responded to my critiques in the first place in a really bizarre way, with how the subreddit was weaponized against me, and the mods were clearly conspiring to fuck me over, and we know that they are controlled and have direct lines of communication with CA. Even if all that happened, someone at CA, at least someone, cares enough to actually decide that all this should be done. So it's not completely hopeless, and this means that CA themselves think I am right. So I consider this to be a success. It worked. We have succeeded. And I'm happy to keep doing this into the future. I'm actually totally fine with this. Like, I don't really get anything out of directly communicating my gripes with the games to the developers, but if I have to articulate it well enough that it can stand up to public scrutiny and stand for all time, that motivates me to get it right and to really think about it and to make it compelling. So I'm happy to keep doing this for future Total War games, even if I do it without CA's blessing, because I don't get free keys anymore. I got the email telling me that I don't get free keys for their games anymore. When was it? 2 weeks after Troy's launch. Let me see. So that was on the 29th of August that I got that email telling me that I'm no longer associated. And that was, let's see, 12 days after I made my first Total War critique video in 7 years. So I made a critique of Rome 2 back in October 2013, and then I made another actual proper critique video here in August the 17th, 2020. So that was 7 years later. And then 12 days after this video, I get the email telling me that I'm no longer getting free Steam keys. So I'll let you make up your own mind about what happened there.
He believes he was blacklisted because he criticized Total War. In all honesty, that can happen.
But I'm perfectly fine with that. Like, I don't need CA's blessing to keep playing these games. I play these games and push them because I like doing it. I've always done it. It's what I was doing when I first played Shogun 1 in 2000. So I've always been playing Total War with ambition, trying to understand it. Not just Total War, but playing games in general. Trying to quickly understand how to be effective in them and how they work. And how to, since I've started playing on YouTube, how to make gameplay that looks good and is satisfying and remarkable and interesting. So I'm just continuing to do what I've always done by making these critique videos, because previously I would try to play games and show the best of them, but when Total War games don't have a best to show, I can instead make videos explaining why that is, and that's exactly what I've been doing here, and I'm happy to keep doing it. I've had AAA game developers actually seek me out to give feedback along these lines in the past, and that was always with games where I'm nowhere near as dominant as I am here in Total War. So the fact that CA don't want it, and I've instead got to make videos that they have to pay attention to by virtue of the fact that all of you watch them and complain about the exact same things that resonate with you in these videos, that's really eccentric. Like, I don't really know of this happening anywhere else, so this is a really strange situation. But I can't really complain. I actually have never had so much fulfillment and satisfaction from critiquing games and trying to understand how they work than I have here with this video series. So I'm perfectly content to keep doing this going forward. Like, this is how it's going to be, so be it. And to be perfectly honest, I don't even trust that CA care about the gameplay in their games. If they did, I think it would be possible to hotkey wedge in Three Kingdoms, but instead you have to click around on your screen. I don't think there's really any thought given to ambition of gameplay or ambition of pushing game design for more gameplay possibility in their players. And I think a part of that is because players themselves don't really seem to have standards. Just look at this comment that I got today that really sums up quite well, and sums up why I checked out a Total War so hard when I heard that Warhammer was announced. That was not an announcement that had virtuous motivations behind it. I thought that then, and I still think it now. That was purely a pragmatic chasing the money decision, just like any heeding of anything I've got to say about Total War will have to be. So that's the only way improvement can be made, unfortunately. So I don't think they're going to care about what I think about gameplay. All they're going to care about, it seems to me, is if videos get high views and if people complain on forums with the same arguments that I make in these videos. That's the only way they're going to care. So I prefer to not have any direct interaction with CA whatsoever. I don't trust them. I haven't seen anything from them that instills confidence or trust in their motivations about their games, so I'm happy with this. And I'm going to be doing this, of course, without CA's blessing, because they pulled access to Steam keys and early access. So if you want to incentivise me to keep going with this, which I will be very happy to do, then you can always support me on Patreon, and I'll appreciate it, and that'll give me motivation to keep going with this. I wasn't sure about making this video, and I actually held off for a while, but considering the amount of bullshit I've been through and how, in a lot of ways, this is a thankless task, I couldn't resist. And of course, I'm sure a lot of you will be happy to find out that it works. This works. So anyone that said making critique videos doesn't work, need I say more? Hang on, I'm going to get the perfect comparison. Hang on, alright. Need I say more? Alright, here we go, look at this. Boom. 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 Flawless victory. Thanks for watching, and my next video is likely to be on formations in Total War, so stick around for that, and I hope you'll like it. Thanks for watching, everyone. Next time. If you appreciate my efforts and would like to show your support, check out my Patreon. Special thanks to Matteo Olivetti, Nerdington, The Roadie451, Halcyon, Robert Sparks, and Dake.